Peace. What's up, y'all? This is Queen Sereda. So I'm gonna be going into the Minor Arcana, and I'm gonna be doing that because we already talked about the Major Arcana and we talked about the Fool's Journey. We went through the entire thing, 22 cards, but the entire tarot card deck is 78 cards. And now we're gonna be covering the next cards after the majors, which are the minors. They look something like these cards here. You'll see numbers at the top often on like a traditional Radiant Rider White tarot deck or Rider White. This happens to be the Radiant Rider White. This is the back of the cards. And you can see like the Queen of Swords. You can see the Ten of Swords here. They all have a different meaning and depth. And there's many ways to read them. So here we're going to be talking about what exactly is the Minor Arcana before we even get into what the Cup cards are, which is the first suit that we're going to talk about starting with the next video. So when you're dealing with the Minor Arcana, and I have several notes here I'm going to show you. I just wanted to show you these cards one more time. And just so you can see the symbolism on them, because that's everything. Okay. Now, the Minor Arcana happens to be 4 suits of tarot cards, and there's 14 cards actually inside of each of the suits of the minors. And then pretty much when you get the minors, you know that you're dealing with something that has to do with day-to-day living or day-to-day life. It is a different lesson than the Major Arcana. It's a different lesson altogether. If you go into my playlist, you can look down into those and you'll find the videos for the Beginner's Tarot lessons and also for the Major Arcana and the Fool's Journey. So check those out. We pretty much have plenty to go through, but when you have the Major Arcana and the Minor, the Majors pretty much have names like the Empress, Justice, Death card, things like that. And then you have the Star card in there. You have the Moon, the Sun. But the minor cards have to do with 4 suits of cups and then pentacles. And then sometimes in other decks, you'll see people call the pentacles wheels or circles. You may hear batons for the wands, but it'll be something that symbolizes the same shape and the element of that suit. If it's, you know, used in a non-traditional way and used with some other type of symbol, you'll find that. Staves are used instead of swords. Discs are used instead of pentacles or circles. The other thing you'll find is that you have a knight or a knave. You'll have a page. You'll have a queen and a king also in the minors. Now, when you get a major card, it's more significant than the minors because the minors have to do with everyday life, whereas the major cards have to do with situations and energies that may affect your everyday, you know, or your life as a whole, in a very strong, powerful way that is not like an everyday thing that happens, you know, like going to a traffic light, for instance, and having to stop. No, it'll be something a lot of times a little bit bigger because it's wanting to pull your attention to it. And the major cards definitely do that, and they have very strong, precise lessons that have to do with them. These things also have to do with your soul's journey. When you're dealing with the Fool's card, or the Fool's Journey rather, and you're dealing with the majors or the Major Arcana, you're dealing with things that have to do with the soul's journey, okay? And then the minors or the Minor Arcana, which we'll be getting into, they have to do with more mundane and, you know, just day-to-day things and activities and events and experiences. They offer different types of advice through the symbolism in the card, just as the majors do. And there are different metaphors and actions you can take or avoid taking when you get the minor cards or the majors. Now, the court cards, they represent people. That's what it said that they represent. So let me give you an example of what one of those cards look like for representing people. You have, for instance, the Queen of Swords. In the deck of tarot cards, this is one of the suits, one of the 4 suits, and this would represent a person or a woman or someone with this type of energy. And we'll talk more about what this card means at another time. Let's see if I can get some light on the card. Okay, so there we go. So moving on, there are a total of 56 cards, or 4 sets of 14 cards in the Major Arcana or Minor Arcana. And I have been stumbling over my words. These things also happen to do with, like I said, people, and they stand for somebody that you may know or somebody that may know somebody else in your life. Somebody connected to you in some way. Somebody you may come to know also, and they may have to do with aspects of yourself also, or characteristics in someone you know. They also could be with family or things like that also. It's up to you how you feel about dealing with the gender of the card, but you have male and female cards, and generally it's about the archetype or energy, not so much the sex, but the energy, because different men give off a different energy and different women give off a certain type of energy or personality. No one's left out of the cards, trust that. And then, pretty much the other thing is all of these cards have to do with archetypes, and that it just depends on how you want to read the cards. Now, to use these cards, you would shuffle them and you would read them based on what you pull as you're asking a question. Okay, we'll talk about spreads. We'll talk about insights and all this type of stuff, and that there is no wrong way to read the tarot. No wrong way to read the tarot. But if you want to read it the traditional way and then, make it up as you go along and create your own way, then that's what I'll be talking about, and using your intuition with the cards also. So the other thing with the Minor Arcana is that you begin your next journey of exploration. Once you're done with the major cards, then you're going into another journey of exploration with the Minor Arcana cards. And now, like I said, they're said to reflect one's life or your worldview as you like your day-to-day. They're not the big deal things, but they are everyday things. And they are going to be reflecting someone's worldview or life, in a minor way. They consist of 4 suits, and for each of these 4 elements, I hope you're having a good day today. There are going to be 14 cards for each suit in the minors. Material life, which is the pentacles. And then there's 14 cards for the suit of cups, which is emotional life. 14 cards for the suit of wands, or passions in life. But then there's also going to be, lastly, 14 cards to represent one's mental world or life. And those are the swords. These areas of life are important to your day-to-day life and do at times come up for change or improvement, inspiration, lessons, and growth. You may hear the dog barking in the background. He just seemed to can't help himself today. He's hilarious. So these 2 distinct groups of cards, like I talked about with the 78 cards, the minors we're talking about specifically, they pretty much, Arcana, it has to do with secrets. So we're dealing with the minor secrets or mysteries. And these cards are going to be knowledge, a certain type of minor knowledge. And things like practical everyday things and events, experiences, and situations in one's life comes up. So what actually are tarot cards good for? We covered that in another video, but look in the playlist that I actually been recording, and you'll see like tarot card breakdowns for beginners, and then there's a whole bunch of them that talk about the majors and go through the entire, they start going through the whole tarot deck for you. So these cards, when you're reading tarot, they're good for reading the moment, the future, the now, or the past, which is amazing. And I've been fascinated with reading tarot cards for a long time, and that's why I keep coming back to read them on this channel, because I love them just like you all do. So anyway, the tarot deck, they're made up of several cards, which begin with the 22 major arcana. And then these are pretty much going to be the minors. I like to repeat this because it's so much information, so you can't even get it wrong, but I just want to tell you another way to look at it. These minors are equally important to look at, And the minors are made up of these 56 cards, the 4 suits. The minors are numbered from number 1 through 10. And then you have the court cards, which represent the people after that. In the minors, we have the suits of wands, of swords, of cups, and of pentacles. Now, each of these suits covers or it represents a different area of life. And the minors, They all are going to include court cards that make up the traditional tarot deck. Things that come up are going to be the main court card types, and these are going to be a page, knight, queen, king of each suit. And it is amazing how much depth you get out of these cards as a result of this. So in non-traditional tarot decks, you'll find discs instead of pentacles. I talked about that a little while ago. You'll find even staffs instead of wands, a chalice instead of a cup. And then you'll also find like other creative ways. There's other ways that people may use a symbol to represent a suit of the tarot, or even an element in the tarot cards. They're very flexible. That's the most important thing, you know. You can read them so many ways. Now, the most important thing to know and to keep in mind is that the minor arcana cards can be changed, and they're never set in stone forever. People say that the major arcana cards are said to be set in stone because they're spiritual lessons for a person. But as a human, yes, there are things that are so-called set in stone. For instance, the way we breathe. But there is a way to go around the so-called things that are so-called set in stone for the advanced divine being, though. And we'll talk about that as we dive into Newt and Geb and the meaning of that, and talk about the night sky and the earth. And we'll go into Tahuti the scribe, or Hermes Trismegistus. We'll go into that and talk about the scribe. And that story is going to talk about why in the world do we have free will and how we're able to utilize it. In another video, we'll talk about that. And this will talk about where creation is from, and really talk about the entire thing behind astrology and tarot and all of that stuff. There's ether, spirit behind all that. So let me go ahead and talk about the next part. I did highlight something else that I wanted to go ahead and cover. And that is the cards are numbered from 1 to 10, and they correspond to the same numbers in the tarot. And when I say that, I'm talking about the 1 through 10 cards that are here. These cards. We've got the ace, and then the 2. These are of the different suits of the wands and of the pentacles. And when you have the major cards of the tarot, they also have numbers on them also. So if you were to pull out, for instance, the High Priestess card, number 2, the 2 of Pentacles, 2 of Wands, the dog, you'll find that those same numbers correspond to the minors and the major cards. And there's deep meaning in that, because numerology has its own meaning. So you get more depth out of the cards that way with that knowledge. The last part is that I want to talk about what exactly these numbers mean very briefly on the Minor Arcana cards. Number 1, pure potential. Number 2, a choice. Number 3, the beginning of taking action. The journey has just begun. Number 4 is stability. And number 5, instability or challenge. You can never lose everything. Also, the message comes up, even though things seem unstable. Chaos. Number 6, finding balance. It talks about something that completes you. It feels that way anyway. The other thing is number 7, coming together and bringing different seeming contradictory parts together to make a whole and making it work anyway. Number 8, pursue the best and leave the other nonsense behind. Focus only on what's necessary. Strength of the will to keep going forward. Number 9, peaceful wisdom. Even someone that you know all by yourself that nobody else knows. A wise person. Completion. Even thought or careful thought. Number 10, closure, a new beginning, transcendental completion, transcendental letting go, starting over. The cycle is completed. Coming to a close, replacement with the old, with the new. Replacing the new and replacing the old, I'm sorry, just like I said the first time. So, you know, that's what number 10 is. You've literally started over with something new and left the old behind. A return to the beginning, like in the tarot. That's number 10. So the last thing is, these represent a particular person, or it can represent the querent, or a querent's person that they know in the querent's life. These can represent that. You got the pages, they represent children, a messenger. They are also aligned with the fool in a way. They're eager, and it's a student, someone who is really excited and happy, ready to go, just getting started. The knight. And also pages, I say practice. Practice has to do with them also. They're practicing to get better because they're just starting off. Knights can mean teens, young adults, older children, and even they can mean people that are on a journey and traveling. Long distances too. A lot of energy and younger energy also. Queen. The Queen card symbolizes like creators and passionate ones. Someone who's aligned with the Empress or the message of the Empress card. Females and adults. Someone with the womanly type of energy or female energy. King. The King card can represent even loyalty, someone who's self-assured and rational, a fixed point of view, and someone who's moving towards action, someone who takes action, a level-headed person who's a manager. The other thing is males or adults. It can represent that. Now, I have covered that part of it. Let me see if there's any other notes. Yeah, this right here is important. The last part for quicker understanding of the minor arcana, before I let you go, is going to be, if you want to understand the minors before we get into them, we're going to be talking about the cups next, but ask yourself questions like this. What are some of the best ways to use these minor arcana cards for yourself? What are some of the ways you'd like to use them? You can also reflect on the cards and journal your thoughts. You can also meditate and go into the card, really dive into the card's symbolism, look at the colors, pull more out of it. Ask yourself, what's the card saying to you? And then what are the lessons the cards are highlighting for you? Write some of the examples of the cards' meaning down and then dive into that. All right, I've got to go. There's the door. I'll talk to you all later. Peace and much love. Queen Sereda, naturallyhighlife.com. Talk to you soon.